Jesse Foster welcomes you to Father Nation, where other dads illuminate your path to become a better father. Prepare to enter into the man cave.
And welcome to Father Nation. This is your host, Jesse Foster. Father Nation is a place where I interview different dads about their experiences as a dad, so that they can share their wisdom and experiences with you. Let their journey illuminate your path. Father Nation is also now on the Father Nation radio network over at live365.com. There you can hear Dad Talk 24/7. We've got several new shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. So if you're ever on the internet looking for new radio shows to listen to, head on over to live365.com, type in Father Nation. Today on the show, we have Larry Hagner. He's founder of agooddadproject.com. He's also got a new book coming out, The Dad Edge. Larry, thank you so much for coming on Father Nation today. And as we begin, let's just hear a little more about kind of your background, where you come from, and a little more about your family.
Hey, Jesse, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, and honored to be here for sure. So thank you. So really my background is I'm currently married, been married for 12 years. I have 3 boys. I actually have my 4th boy on the way. So, I think a lot of times when you tell people that you're pregnant with your first, you get this, oh, that's awesome. You get like this great reaction. And then when you say you're pregnant with your second, people are like, oh, that's great. 2, that's great. Then when you announce you're having 3, a lot of people are like, wow, okay, yeah, okay, 3, cool, and congratulations. When you mention you have 4, you have your 4th coming, people just stop congratulating you, and they're like, wow, that's a lot, So the responses are quite different, and especially when you mention you have 4 boys, it gets a little crazy. So I have a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 2-year-old, and I have one on the way that will be due in February. So that is really my family. And if you want, I can kind of give you my background story and just kind of how I got started with the Good Dad Project.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. So, really the Good Dad Project, if I look back, it really kind of stems from my childhood. I grew up in a fatherless environment, and my mom was married several times. And the times in my life I did have a father figure, it was usually not a good experience. It was kind of a toxic type of element, whether it was alcohol, just all kinds of crazy stuff. And I don't share that with you for pity or anything like that. I regret nothing in my childhood whatsoever. In fact, I think it's shown me exactly what not to do, which has been a very, very valuable lesson. So 9 years ago, when I first became a father, I felt just completely overwhelmed, terrified, frustrated, and I really just wasn't enjoying it. And to be honest, I felt like I was just not good at it. There's certain facets in your life that you think you can master, you think you want to be good at it. And we as men, we as fathers, one of the things that we want to be fantastic at is being a dad. But the thing that I was really missing was I didn't really have a blueprint from my own childhood. And I craved guidance big time. So what I did was about 3 years ago is I started a Facebook page called the Good Dad Project. And really the Good Dad Project was me. I was the project. And what I was doing was I just created a group where I shared inspirational quotes. Like every day I went out and I tried to find something inspirational to point me in the right direction. I would share inspirational and self-help books that helped me along with my fatherhood journey. And I really didn't mean for any of this to become really, really big. And the Facebook group started to grow. And then, maybe I kind of thought, I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of onto something here, because the more dads I interacted with on the Facebook page, the more I found we all have the same struggles in common. We all have the same things that we want to improve, but it's the stuff that, to be honest with you, we just don't talk about as men. We don't talk about it. And so what I did was I created this website called gooddadproject.com, just because that's, the Facebook followers, that's what they knew. And I just created a blog. I blogged about different areas in fatherhood and different things that really resonated with other men. And then I wrote my first ebook. And I started having a lot of people subscribe to the page and to the blog, which was great. And then now, 6 months ago, we actually just started a podcast, and it's actually on iTunes, the Good Dad Project podcast. So, and actually today, I know we're recording on October 2nd. Today, I actually launched my first actual tangible book, and it's on Amazon. It's called The Dad's Edge, and it's 9 simple ways to have unlimited patience, because that's something that a lot of us men struggle with. Improved relationships. So if you want to improve your relationship with your spouse, improve the relationship with your kids, interacting with dads for the past 3 years, we want that, but a lot of times we just don't have the how to. And creating positive, lasting memories. So how to create, how to show up big, with your kids, and how to do things that you are going to remember as a father, that you're going to enjoy as a father, and your kids are going to enjoy it as well. So that's really the Good Dad Project in a nutshell.
That sounds like great stuff. And kind of going back to that book that you just mentioned, The Dad's Edge, that unlimited patience, that sounds like almost too good to be true. But when you think about patience, I mean, how as a dad can we have more patience?
I've never been asked that, so I can't tell you. I'm just kidding. So over the past 3 years, I've done dad workshops at churches where I speak to men's groups, and I've been blessed and honored to do, in the past couple of years, I've been honored to do over 20 of them. So I've had this opportunity to not only teach dads, but I've had the opportunity and the privilege to learn from other fathers, because I don't call myself a dad expert by any means. This book it's a compilation of lessons that I've gotten to learn through myself, that I've learned the hard way, also by learning through other dads. And here's what I can tell you about patience. Number one, patience is the number one thing I hear every dad wants more of. But the big question is how, it's your question, it's how do I get more patience? How do I do that? The first step is really being aware of what patience is and how we're affected by it. And in the book, I break it down very easily. I mean, this book, The Dad's Edge, it's 100 pages, and it's written for a man. So it's very simple. And actually, at the end of each chapter, I do takeaway tips. So even if you don't have time to read the entire chapter, I do takeaway tips. But I have a whole chapter dedicated to unlimited patience. And basically, here's how patience works. When you're a man and your patience is tested, a lot of times that patience is tested through external factors. So there's 2 different types that affect our patience. There's external and there's internal. The external factors are, I'm having a hard day at work. I'm stressed out at work. I've got all these deadlines. I'm maxed out at work. My kids are misbehaving. The relationship with my spouse is strained. I mean, I have no doubt you've probably felt these things too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, every man has. The internal is what really kind of eats away at us. The internal is that voice, and I'm sure you've heard it. I've heard it. I still hear it almost every day. I've just learned to calm it down. That voice is, be a man. You should be able to handle this. Aren't you strong enough to handle this? You should have more patience. Why aren't you enjoying your journey as a father? You should be. And it's like all this guilt and, tearing yourself down and shame that we as men, we do it so quietly. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that same thing too.
Absolutely. I think patience inside, I'm like, man, what is wrong with me? Why do I keep on exploding at my child when I just realized I always focus on being patient, but then, it never seems to always, I mean, not never, but often it doesn't materialize.
Right. I mean, exactly what you just said. I mean, we all feel that way. I mean, and, I wrote this book and I blog about it and I have a podcast about it every day. I still hear that voice. It's just a matter of, number one, knowing you're not alone and knowing how to calm that voice. So here's how you can do it. A lot of times, there's a couple different ways you can do it. I list several strategies in the book, but a lot of times our level of patience is directly correlated with how burnt out we are, how maxed out we are. So a lot of times we as men, we do a bad job of taking care of ourselves, because we feel self-care is selfish. How could I take time away from my family, away from my kids for self-care? I already work a 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour work week. what does self-care look like? And I can guarantee you what self-care is taking 30 minutes to 60 minutes every day and disconnecting and doing something for yourself. And again, I know that sounds completely selfish, but it isn't. You're actually doing the people around you who are most important to you a huge service by actually doing something for yourself to disconnect, to show up bigger and better for those people, and to get yourself more patience. And let me give you an example. So I've spent, again, one of the things that I use, it's my go-to vice. It's the thing that I have to do on a daily basis, and that's exercise. And it can be anything. It can be running. It can be, working out in the gym. It could be just going for a walk for 30 minutes. And what that really looks like is I don't answer my phone. I don't return an email. I get those endorphins going, and I disconnect from everything. And what I find after I've done that for 30 to 60 minutes is a better version of myself, because I feel better. I've taken time to basically, to use the analogy, put on my oxygen mask first. If you've been on an airplane, they always say, put your oxygen mask on first and then assist your child. It's the exact same thing. And a lot of times it doesn't have to be exercise. It could be something that you do for 30 to 60 minutes of it every day, that you don't answer to anyone, and you disconnect, and you literally just do something that fills you up, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I've had other dads talk about kind of what you're going off of there is to kind of be the best dad, you need to be the best you, so to speak.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. In order to show up as the best version of ourselves, it's literally doing something for ourselves that makes us a better us. Because if we're not a better us, then we're not going to be a better father. Being a better us, being a better dad is just a byproduct of that.
And Father Nation, right now you're listening to Larry Hagner. He's a founder of agoodDadProject.com. Also out, we've been talking about his new book here, The Dad's Edge, which is available now as of October 2nd. And Larry, let's talk about more here of A Good Dad Project, where you mentioned there at the beginning, a lot of dads, they want to be their best, but they feel like they don't have maybe, reference from their own childhood as to what a good dad should be. Maybe they just don't have the tools necessary, or maybe the resources, you can call it. And that's kind of, it seems like why you made the Good Dad Project. What's another resource that has really been helpful for you as a dad?
I think with if I look at being a dad compared to what we do for maybe a living full time. Most of us dads, we work, we're in a trade, or we do something. And normally with that job or with that career, there's constant, continuous learning. There's always ways to sharpen. The thing that I have found, though, with fatherhood is there's minimal resources out there to basically help us sharpen our skills as dads. Think of all the training that goes into our jobs, or college for that matter. 4 years to get a degree. And then when you become a father, it's, your child is born and here you go. There's no manual, there's no nothing, here you go. The one piece of advice that I would give fathers that's definitely helped me, I know it's helped a lot of others, is, take time to sharpen your skills as a father. And if that means, listening to a podcast like this one's excellent, where you can constantly feed yourself tips, strategies, and ways to become better. Almost daily if you can. Read something, listen to something every single day. There's a lot of good books out there. There's a lot of good podcasts out there. That's one way that you can definitely sharpen, your skills as a father.
Yeah, it seems like the Good Dad Project is kind of focused on community. And you mentioned, or talking more of a lot of different dads, kind of exchanging ideas. A Facebook group, that Facebook group is just called the Good Dad Project as well, you said?
I do. I have a page called the Good Dad Project, and so you can always go to the page. I also have actually a private group that you can, that a dad, if you have a dad listener, I mean, obviously the dads who are listening to this particular podcast, your podcast, I mean, these are the guys who really, they have that desire. They want to be better. If you go to Facebook and type in the Dad's Edge, Real Dads with Purpose, you'll find a group there, and you can actually ask for access into that group. What you'll find in that group is a bunch of like-minded fathers as well, having very good conversations, raw conversations, sharing a lot of different ideas, a lot of different perspectives. So helpful, and it's so empowering. So if you have dads who are listening, I mean, obviously, send them to that particular group, because it's like-minded men that we just want to be better.
And kind of in all your conversations with, like-minded men, is there any one piece of advice that kind of stands out to you over the last couple of years since you've started the Good Dad Project, or any kind of running theme, so to speak, that has been helpful advice for you as a dad?
I mean, there's a couple for sure. The one theme that I have on my website at gooddadproject.com is dads with purpose on purpose. And really what that means, I heard another father at one of my workshops say that, and it just resonated so much with me and the other men that were there. And really what that means is, you're a dad with purpose. So you have a why, you have a desire to be a better father, be a better man, but on purpose, it's almost like it's times two. Not only do you have a purpose, but you're there on purpose. So you're present. You're very, very present with your kids. You're engaged with your kids. The other statement that I've heard from a good friend of mine, and he was actually on our show. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Nick Pavlidis.
I've heard his name actually, but I haven't met him.
Just a great guy. He published a book not too long ago called, talk about throwing yourself out there. He published a book called Confessions of a Terrible Husband, Lessons Learned from a Lumpy Couch. And the book is unbelievable because the guy really throws himself out there. And it's just such a raw, great book. And we had him on our show, and he said something to me that just resonated so much, and it's actually in our show notes. If you want to go listen to that episode, it's Good Dad Project. It's episode 15 with Nick Pavlidis. But he said, when I was trying to be better, and when I was trying to be a better husband, when I was trying to be a better father, I didn't focus on the huge picture, like this big, audacious goal of just being awesome and perfect, and because that's just defeating. The quote that stuck with me forever is, he said this, I just tried to do the next right thing. And that just made, and that's still, like, I hear him say that in my mind almost every day. And when I have a bad moment or I feel like my patience is wearing thin, I'll hear that quote of just do the next right thing. Like, don't have like maybe this big audacious goal to be phenomenal and perfect and a perfect father, and every moment has to be perfect. It's just do the next right thing. It makes it sound so simple, and it's so attainable.
Yeah, it's very true that being a good dad is not about being perfect. I know that that's probably one of your themes at the Good Dad Project is good dads are not perfect, because none of us are perfect. And I noticed that you did have an ebook. It's called The 5 Biggest Parenting Mistakes Dads Make and How to Avoid Them. And often here at Father Nation, we talk about Daddy Duds, mistakes we've made.
Right.
What's one of your biggest Daddy Duds, and maybe also what's one of the biggest parenting mistakes in general that you think dads make?
Yeah, sure. And let me give you a little bit of background on that book. So, that's kind of a bold title, is the top 5 mistakes dads make and how to avoid them. That was actually my very first ebook. And basically what it was a compilation of the top 5 mistakes that I have always heard from dads and what they have tried to do. And then basically what I did was I took that book and kind of like what Nick did in his book, Confessions of a Terrible Husband, I wrote about each one of those mistakes and how I made them and what the effect was and how it kind of hurt me. And that's really what the book is all about. And I would say one of the daddy duds that I do, I've written about it, I blog about it, I podcast about it, is not being present and being distracted by technology. And so I'll give you an example. Everyone has a mobile device these days. Everybody has a phone. And one of the things that I have done, and I've been terrible about it. And even though I'm so aware of this problem, I mean, I still make the mistake all the time. And that's from the hours of 5 to 9 p.m., I really try to be super engaged with my family and just shut it down, shut down technology, shut down email, text, all that stuff, and just be there. And what I would say my biggest daddy dud is I spent so many hours being distracted and being on my phone. I mean, there were times I would sit there at the dinner table and I'd be on my phone. I mean, how rude is that, right? It's so rude. And I mean, I think about that if I compared it to, you know, if you or I were single and we took out a woman on a date and she sat across from us and she was on her phone the whole time, I mean, we would be completely insulted and we probably wouldn't ask her to go back out again. So why do we think that that's okay, you know, to do in front of our kids? So I would say that's one of my biggest daddy duds, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think it's easy to do. Maybe we get comfortable, you know, seeing our family every day, and I guess it's maybe laziness, I guess, where we feel like, well, we can just be on this phone while they're there, and it's not a big deal. But you're right, it is. I guess rude is a good way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just rude and kind of insensitive. Yeah.
Well, you've got a house full of boys. You're there raising all under age 10 right now, right? You said age 9, 7, and 4? Is that?
No, 2. 9,
2.
7, and 2. Actually, he'll be 2 here in a month.
Is there any particular challenges that you found as just raising a house full of boys that might be unique just to boys?
Boys, yeah, I would say the challenge with boys is I can't give obviously any feedback on girls because I have none, but boys, they have a lot of energy, and they can be a handful at times. I mean, my wife and I mean, I'm not sure how clean your show is, but my wife and I joke about like raising 3 boys in the house is almost like raising 3 drunks in your house because right. they're maniacs. So, you know, my perspective on boys is, you know, and what you have to do to rope that energy a little bit is we're a really active family. And I mean, we're into sports. We go outside, we play, you know, we do a lot of things together. And there has to be like, if you have boys, you have to have like an outlet, like a healthy outlet that you can all do. Because what you'll find is with boys, they tend to get bored quickly. They want to be active. And if you're not doing those things, man, it can just be chaos in your house, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm finding that with I have one boy, he's still only 3, but he's just pretty rambunctious and climbing all over me and just has so much energy. Sometimes I wonder what it's going to be like in 2 or 3 years from now.
And how old is he again?
He's 3 right now only.
He's 3, yeah. So, yeah, they just, you know, they'll beat you up. I mean, I've got a huge bruise on my left arm. I mean, where my 9-year-old like literally cold cocked my arm while we were kind of wrestling and playing around. But yeah, just watch it. You know, they'll get you.
Now, I always thought having a house full of boys it would just maybe it might be easier because they would kind of rough house with each other some.
Oh no, they'll beat up on you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Father Nation, again, we have Larry Hagner on the line. He's with thegooddadproject.com. Check out his new book, The Dad's Edge. And Larry, before we kind of finish up this episode, is there any more maybe takeaways that you would like to leave here with Father Nation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I said, in the book, I mean, I give 9 strategies that will basically help any father out there. And there are 9 strategies that really all of us, it's all of our pitfalls. It's all of our daddy duds, I guess you could say. And it's ways around them. And it's very, very simple ways. I mean, if I could give anybody any advice, it would be, you know, don't forget about your spouse. You know, put that relationship first. If you can't, you know, reason being is because if you're not giving that relationship a lot of emotional feeding, a lot of attention, you know, the family just kind of can deteriorate. So I would say, obviously, make sure that you give your spouse, you know, your full attention. You know, put her first, because that's going to be key. A lot of times we get so distracted when we have kids. I mean, because our attention goes to the kids, and a lot of times we put our spouse on the back burner. In the book, I've got a chapter called 3 Ways to Connect with Your Spouse, No Matter How Busy You Are. because we're all busy. Like if you're a parent, you are busy, busy, busy. So, and there's a way to do it on a daily level, on a weekly level, on a monthly level, to do all these things. And the other thing too is, keep in mind what we said about patience. Do something for yourself every single day. Recognize when you have, that inner chatter that just wants to tear you down and how to tame that. I go through that in the book as well. The other thing is how do we connect with our kids? I mean, a lot of times we as men, we struggle, with, okay, I have a 9-year-old. How do I speak 9-year-old language? Or I have a teenager. How do I speak teenage language? It's tough for me. I want to have this connection, but I don't really know what ground to fall on. In my book, what I do is I go over ways that you can literally just every single day, you can connect with that child. I'll give you one example real quick. One of the things that I do, and I know a lot of dads out there do, and it works wonders, and it's so simple, but a lot of times it's so easy to not do, is take just 10 minutes every day of undistracted time and have a conversation with your child. One of the things that and do this one-on-one. So if you have more than one, like I do, 3 of them, and it can be tough. But what I do is every night before bed, I take 10 minutes and I just have an open-ended conversation with that child. And my rules for that is that I don't ask them questions that they can answer yes or no to. I ask them open-ended questions. So how, what, why, when. And what you'll find in that 10 minutes is some phenomenal conversations, because they'll open up to you, especially if it's one-on-one. They'll open up to you like they won't open up in front of their sibling. And it's undistracted time. There's no cell phones. There's no TV on. There's nothing. It's just you and that child. And I can tell you that one tip alone will work wonders. Even if you have a teenager, try to do that. Just 10 minutes of undistracted time with each other per day.
I think that's a great takeaway tip for all dads to try and implement. It's just, I've been doing that with my son some, and I do find that I feel closer to him afterwards, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes, just trying to talk to him, rather than just being in the house and with him. If we're actually consciously trying to talk to him and make conversation with him, I think it's a great habit to have as a dad. Father Nation, again, we've had Larry Hagner on the line today. He's with gooddadproject.com. Go ahead and check that out, gooddadproject.com, and check out his ebook there of 5 biggest parenting mistakes that dads make and how to avoid them. Larry, thanks so much for coming on today, Father Nation, and giving us your wisdom and experience as a dad.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor being on your show.
Today's show is brought to you by the Cash Flow Freedom University. Ben Leibovich, who's been a guest on this program several times, is an accomplished entrepreneur, author, and real estate investor. In his Cash Flow Freedom University, Ben delivers comprehensive yet affordable financial literacy and real estate investing education. Having been able to secure his family's financial future, Ben teaches us the core concepts, tools, and techniques that have enabled his success, and can yours. Hundreds of people have benefited from Ben's Cash Flow Freedom University. If your family's financial future is a concern for you today, perhaps it's time to take a look at Ben Leibovich's Cash Flow Freedom University. For more information, visit fathernation.com, head on over to the products page,